As Secretary of State, you were the nation's highest ranking diplomat, and as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, you were the nation's highest ranking soldier. War and diplomacy are on opposite ends of the same spectrum, and yet they're so closely intertwined. How would you describe that relationship for CUNY students?
Yeah, I would not say that they were on the opposite ends. It's an integrated, system, really. And what I've always said is that I would like to see diplomacy and political action solve international conflicts. But at the end of the day, a great nation has to have a great military force that, if called upon in failure of diplomacy to execute battle, to go after the nation's enemies, we have to be ready for that. And we should do it in a way that is, as I've often said, decisive. I was once asked by an Archbishop of Canterbury, why don't you believe more in soft power? I said, I do believe in soft power. But it wasn't soft power that defeated Hitler. It was hard power, because soft power didn't work. And so you want to encourage diplomacy, encourage soft power, but at the end of the day, if hard power is not an option at the end of that, soft power may not be as effective as it might be.
You said that when you came here to City College, ROTC was something you connected with for the first time in your life. You really found yourself. What was it about ROTC that you did connect with?
Well, I was a little over 17 years old when I tripped over ROTC in the summer of 1954. And it was the structure, it was the discipline, it was the guys. I mean, there are about 15 of them in the room now. Here it is 55 years later. It was just now that was in the ceremony. And it was a structure, it was a direction, it was a certain purposeful nature of military activity. And I was pretty good at drilling, and I kind of loved all of that. It essentially, when you're 17 or so and you're leaving home really for the first time, you're kind of adrift. And I found a new home, I found a new family with my fellow students here in the ROTC. And so that became my new family, not to never abandon the old one, but you have to sort of transition out of that original family to a new family, and that's what I found in the Army.
In 1989, Parade magazine had published your 13 Rules of Leadership. For CUNY students and alumni, what guidelines would you give them today?
Well, they're still pretty good. I mean, we have been sending them out to people for the last 23, 24 years now. And there's nothing magic about them. They're pretty commonsensical. And the reporter who wrote that article asked me to look at some little sayings I had under my desk glass that he heard about and just read off some of them. And I read off the first 13 that were publishable, were not rude. And those are the ones he printed. And people have asked, well, which of these 13 rules are the most important? I said, the first and the last, number 1 and number 13. Number 1 says, it isn't as bad as you think. It'll be better in the morning. It may not be better in the morning. It's not a prediction. It's an attitude to go to bed with that says, no matter what happened today, we're going to be better tomorrow. We're going to fix it tomorrow. And the 13th rule is a derivative from a military saying, and that is that force multipliers are things you do to make your force more effective. And to make yourself more effective and to make your organization more effective, perpetual optimism. Always think things are going to get better, no matter how bad things may seem at the moment. And I think that's an attitude for young people. A lot of young students that I meet or I talk to, they face difficulties in school, they face other difficulties in life, and it starts to get them down. And so, no man, never be down, always be up. In the Army, they teach you, no matter how cold everybody may be, you're the leader, you're never cold. Troops may be hungry, you're never hungry, you're the leader. They may be tired, you're never tired. And
you're that even keel.
You've got to be optimistic that things will get better. And I think our youngsters don't get enough of that.
Okay. You said those 13 rules came from sayings. When you were a young man growing up in the city, my understanding is you worked in a baby furniture store and you picked up some Yiddish sayings.
Yeah,
did any of those translate, did you get any wisdom or guidance from those
whenever I was kind of annoyed with somebody, I got gesunden keppel, hit you in the side of the head, or you're a blessing, and depending on how you say it, it's either a blessing or a slap in the side of the head. I preferred it as a slap in the side of the head. But I learned a lot. The biggest lesson I got from my experience in the toy store was from the Russian immigrant Jew who owned it, Jay Sixer. And after I'd worked there for a few summers and a few Christmas seasons, he pulled me aside and he used a diminutive, a Yiddish diminutive of my name. He would call me Kali. Collie knew, come, listen, I want to talk. And he said to me, Collie, you're a good worker. I love having you in the store. You're part of the family. But listen, you know, you can't ever stay here. You have to get your education. You've got a good family and you're smart. Go get your education. Make sure you move on. And so I never had any intention of staying in that toy store and being a schlepper, meaning just moving stuff around. I said, never had any intention of doing that. But I was so touched that he thought enough of me to tell me that I had the potential to do other things in life and don't think that I should stay there. And I'll never forget that a guy cared enough about me to say, go, don't
move
stay,
on.
Move on.
Move on.
And I stayed in touch with that family for the next 50 years. He passed on, his children passed on, but I stayed in touch with them till the last one left.
So many people look at diplomacy as a complicated thing. You meet heads of state, there's ceremony, there are rules to follow. Did any of those early cross-cultural experiences in that store prepare you for high-level diplomacy?
Not only the store, just growing up in New York. Hey, what's going on, man? You know, we're New Yorkers. We talk a lot. And we listen to each other sometimes. But what I learned in New York, in the multi-ethnic neighborhood I grew up in, everybody was from somewhere else. Everybody had about the same level of income in the family. So we were all kind of equals, and we had to get along, and we had diverse backgrounds. And I think I learned from that how to sort of respect what diversity is and respect others. And I've used that throughout my career to listen to others and listen to their problems, listen to what they need to get out of a negotiation. And I could tell you story after story, and there are a number in my book about how I've had to negotiate with others, but always on the basis of, hey, we may be adversaries at the moment, but we must never become enemies. We have to solve this problem. If I can get what I want and you can get what you want, then it's a good deal. Let's shake hands and do it.
So many people who have had a career as distinguished as yours eventually go and pursue an elected office. You never chose to do that?
No, I haven't. No, it's just not me. I'm still basically a soldier, notwithstanding everything else I've done, and never had any political inclinations because I was a career officer. I couldn't have any. And so the only time I ever thought about it was in 1995 when my first book came out. There was enormous interest in perhaps a political career, and gave it some thought and just came to the conclusion that, you know, this is not you. And so find other things to do in service. And I've done that. CCNY, Powell Center. I've done a lot with youth programs, founded America's Promise Alliance. And people say, well, do you have any regrets, any second thoughts? No. I did what was right for me and for my family. Second thoughts are a waste of time. Regrets, waste of time.
You're so connected to education. How would you like the sound of Professor Powell at some point in the future?
I am already a professor. What are you talking? I think the director of the Powell School has made me a distinguished visiting professor at the City College of New York. Very proud of that.
But perhaps on a full-time basis?
Not full-time. I have so many things that I'm involved in that I couldn't do anything new full-time. But I'll be spending a lot of time up here at City. We used to have just a center to worry about. Now we have a much larger school to worry about and 5 academic departments I want to get to know and visit. And so I'm spending a lot more time at City.
In addition to your military training and your training here at CUNY, you also received an MBA from George Washington University. Are there any lessons from the boardroom that translate to the war room or vice versa?
They're the same. I've often said when talking about leadership that leadership is leadership is leadership. It's about putting humans in the best possible environment to accomplish something. That's the case in the boardroom. It's the case on a battle command post. And so it's all about the people. People get the work done. Leaders set the environment. They give the followers what they need. They give the followers a reason, a sense of purpose. But then you have to invest in the followers to make sure they're ready to accomplish whatever you've put before them. And I found that approach, at least in my life, to be universal. It's different. I mean, the difference between being chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and being Secretary of State are quite considerable. But it wasn't that different. I just couldn't quite get things done, moved as quickly as you can in the military when you say, hey, do it, and it gets done.
Yes.
And with my diplomats, I had to spend a little more time explaining why it was necessary. But it was the same basic philosophy. It's human interaction.
Sure. As a soldier transitioning into diplomacy, Was it harder for you to not be the Army general, the orders get done?
No, not particularly, because I had been National Security Advisor for 2 years to President Reagan, so I kind of understood the civilian side of government. And when I walked into the State Department, somebody said, well, what do we call you, General or Mr. Secretary? I said, Mr. Secretary, I'm Secretary of State. I'm also a general, but forget that, I'm Mr. Secretary. And it worked fine. But a lot of the things we did in the State Department to run the department have a very distinct military cast to them. Purpose, mission, get them what they need, inspire people, and then turn them loose.
Okay. And finally, both of your jobs seemed inescapable. What would you do while you were in both of those positions to just unwind, to be Colin Powell, the human being?
Leave the office as early as I could in the evening, go home, watch television, relax, do a lot of reading. On weekends, don't go to work. I almost never work on weekends when I was Secretary of State or as Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Everybody knew where I was if they needed me. But I spent the time at home doing homework, mostly for the next week, not loafing. And so I don't have any sports interest in terms of playing. I'm not a golfer, I'm not a tennis player. I'm just not, one, I'm not a good athlete, and two, I'd rather watch it than do it. And so just being at home is enough of a break and relaxation for me.
General Powell, congratulations on the
so
honors
much
today, and thank you for your time.
Thanks very much. Good luck to you.
Much appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.